on Tuesdays. It's the publisher Bayoubuzz.com who's joining us here on the hotline at, of course, WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com, and then via Google Hangout at Bayoubuzz.com. Of course, Steve Sabodowski with us. And Steve, what's going on?
Hey, Jeff, and how are you today?
Good. Let's try to boost your audio a little bit. Seems a little bit low, but maybe we can get that worked on. So, Steve, we've been talking a lot about the presidential race, a lot about, of course, the president's trip to Africa, a lot about what's going on with the Democrats. Hillary Clinton seemed to be having lots of problems. Bernie Sanders having a big event here in the New Orleans area. Did you happen to attend that?
No, I did not, no. But I read that it was well attended, that he had 4 times the audience that Jindal had.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What do you make of the fact that he drew so many more people than Bobby Jindal?
I mean, to me, I think it's a real embarrassment. I mean, that Jindal couldn't even get in his own state more people than Sanders, and you know, that's to me, I think that's pitiful.
Bobby Jindal's campaign says he's surging in the polls. Of course, it's a fight for the final 10. You've got now just a few days. And you've got 16 battling for 10 spots. What are the odds of him making the cut for the debate?
Well, you know, first of all, is he surging? I mean, his own poll, if that's what you and I are talking about, has him at 8%. The independent polls in Iowa, I should say, have him at 4%. So for somebody who says he doesn't follow polls, he's certainly trying to push the 8%. Is that a surge? I mean, give me a break. I think he has no chance at being in the debate, and I don't give him much of a chance to do much of anything.
Of course, you've got Mike Huckabee now getting a lot of attention, standing by comments comparing the Iran deal to the Holocaust, getting a lot of both support and criticism for that. I want to get your thoughts.
Well, you know, that's a tough one. I mean, when I first read it, I thought that, well, you know, what he's saying makes a lot of sense. I've tried to read and hear the criticisms of others, especially those who are really outraged. And I don't think that just because you make some kind of connection to the Holocaust, I don't think that it automatically means that you're not being respectful. The only word that I think, and I'd have to look at it again, but the only word that I think that perhaps I would have a problem with was marching, the term marching. Mm-hmm. And I think that maybe that could have been, you know, better used, a word better used. But I think if you look at the overall context of what he was saying, I think that it would be foolish for anybody who believes in the future of Israel to not be concerned about what is happening here. And so comparing it to the Holocaust, using the term marching, you know, again, I think that maybe is a little bit overboard, but I do believe that you should be mindful about what happened during the Holocaust, mm-hmm. and look to see what's happening here. And I think that is the Obama administration intentionally trying to march these people, march Israelis and Jews into ovens? No. Is that in effect, assuming that they have they get the bomb and they use it? Well, yes.
And as far as the deal itself, a lot of controversy, a lot of negative reaction to the deal with Iran, a lot of questions being asked about the details of it. Do you think it puts Israel at risk?
Well, I can only go by what I'm hearing and reading, because I haven't read the 100 and some pages, and even if I tried to read it, I don't have the expertise in that area. So I can just go second and third hand, and I think that's all anybody can do at this point in time. But okay, so having said that, based upon what I'm hearing and reading from others, you know, what concerns me is that 15 years is nothing. 10 years is nothing. You know, so um, that's the thing that really, really concerns me. And I think that, I mean, I'm looking at something that could last, you know, decades or centuries. And, you know, so no matter what, I think Israel is going to be at risk, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15, 100 years. I think Israel's going to be at risk. And I don't think it's just Israel. I think it's the entire Western world if everything remains the same as I think it will be, as it will.
Our talk line 504-556-9696. Jeff Crouere here, Steve Sabadowski with us, open line discussion. We'll throw out a few more issues and then take some calls. Steve, we've got, of course, a lot of coverage of what happened in Lafayette the other day, the theater shooting. You had, of course, two beautiful young ladies killed. The lunatic actually turned the gun on himself, killed himself as authorities were closing in. At the same time, though, I want to get your thoughts on an incident that happened in a New Orleans park in Desire where you had playground sprayed by gunfire. And you could have had even more killed there. You had 4 injured. And that didn't seem to really get a lot of play in the media. Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't think anything got a lot of play. I mean, quite frankly, in the media, given what happened in Lafayette. So, I mean, I would not, you know, say make those kind of comparisons personally. You know, to me, I think we have to do something about guns. Okay, one way or another. And I'm not saying that we should. I mean, we've got to do something. We've got to do something about getting guns away from those people in this inner city who are using them in one way or another. We've got to do something about cracking down on people getting guns who are going to use them like this gentleman used in Lafayette, where he was able to evade the background checks. I personally don't know enough about the process to really articulate as much as maybe some of your callers. But, you know, we're going to continue having this problem the more that we have guns in the inner cities. And yeah, you know, guns are not the ones who are actually doing the shootings, the people who are pulling the trigger.
Right.
No question. Okay. But at the same time, guns, as you're saying, you know, sprayed in the around the park in New Orleans, you know, you're not going to have that kind of you know, spraying of knives or anything of that nature. So what can we do as a people is my take. What can we do as a people to figure out a process that we can reduce the guns in the inner cities that are causing, you know, this incredible violence? And what can we do to protect us, whether we go in a movie theater or Superdome or courts or just out in the public, you know, so that we are not infected by those who have guns who are going to be using them because they got it and they were able to evade the background checks.
Let me make a few points in response, and then we'll take some calls at 504-556-9696. Steve, I think it is something that worthy of note that a lot of these mass shootings are occurring in gun-free zones, are occurring in theaters, are occurring in college campuses or on military installations, recruiting centers, where people are disarmed, where people have no ability to protect themselves. I think there is a connection as to why all these places are the areas where these lunatics like to target. I also think if we do pass more gun control legislation, I don't think the criminal element is going to care one bit about it. And I don't think they're going to follow the laws anymore after the legislation is passed and before. And we have tried to do things like gun buyback plans and other efforts to try to get guns off the streets. And normally those are, I don't think effective at all. I don't think the track record shows that those have been successful plans to try to bring down the violence. So I would say this to you, in ways to reduce the violence. What about looking at rebuilding the family? What about looking at rebuilding the schools? What about rebuilding the churches? So if these children had more moral values, maybe they wouldn't care so little about human life.
Well, Jeff, those are long-term goals. I mean, it's something we've been working on now for quite a few generations, centuries, ever since Adam and Eve. So, to where we had the first fractured family, quite frankly. So, those are long-term goals right now. And I'm not saying, gun control. I'm saying, hey, what can we do? What can we do so that it makes sense for all of us? Here's the thing. We have two industries. We have the abortion industry and the gun industry. Both of them are making money on death. Okay, and so I think we need to try to factor out what these people are saying and try to get to the solution among us who are really being affected by this. And I think that there's got to be some way. You don't stop gun violence by putting more guns on the street.
Well, I think in the hands of law-abiding people, in the hands of people that can protect themselves and know how to use a weapon, I think you can eliminate some threats.
Sure,
that's why people go and get training. That's why you've got more and more people, Steve, that are right now going out and learning how to use a firearm because they don't believe the city of New Orleans is protecting them. They don't believe the police are going to be there.
And nobody says
so more people are going out there and buying weapons for protection.
Jeff, but please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying take guns away from these people or prevent them from being able to get training, etc. Okay, is a solution. And I'm just throwing it out, okay, for discussion because I really don't know the answer to this. Mm-hmm. Okay, is the solution that everybody's packing heat? Is that the solution to crime? I tend to believe that it's not. At the same time, I tend to believe that everybody in the inner city, in particular, having guns is not going to stop, that crime situation either.
But gun control laws, look at Chicago, Steve. It's a killing field. And they have strict gun control laws there. Look at a lot of these cities where you have violence. They have pretty strict gun control legislation. So I think we had to look at other solutions other than more laws restricting the use of guns. I think we have to look at some of these longer-term issues. When we had the crisis in the 1960s involving race relations and all the civil rights legislation was passed. There was a lot of discrimination going on. However, on the positive side, you had 75% of black families were intact. You had two-parent families. You had children being raised by a mother and a father. Now, all these years later, after the Great Society, all these years later, after all these trillions in social programs, Steve, that has reversed.
Well, Jeff,
you don't have a family unit, and I've got to point the finger at government policies being one of the reasons why that disintegration has occurred. Wouldn't you agree?
No, that's an oversimplification. Okay, that's an oversimplification.
You wouldn't agree there's any connection between the Great Society programs, all the money that has been poured into quotes saving poverty, the fact that there's still just as much poverty. Yet, interestingly, we've got a disintegration of the family. You don't see any relation there.
I think it's an oversimplification to only blame and primarily blame the quote Great Society, which in my mind includes the Civil Rights Act. In my mind includes integration of the schools. I think that is really wrong-headed again, and we've talked about this before, but my question is, okay, going back to 60 years, roughly 60 years, what would we have done instead? Okay. I mean, I was living back then. What would we done instead? What could we have done instead? Okay, so those people who are saying that this is a failure, so we should not do anything that even comes close to it. Okay, fine, that's fine. So what would have been the solution back then?
Well, I mean, all I know is this: what they tried to use as a solution failed.
Okay, so what? Okay,
what
fine.
what has
Okay,
been what has been offered as, quote, the solution
what?
has
Okay,
been
so
an abysmal failure. And I point to
Jeff, let's go
I
back
point to the
60
fact.
years.
Hold on. I point
Okay.
to the fact we've got 50 million people in poverty. I point to the fact we got 47 million on food stamps right now. I point to the fact that we've got crime now increasing in many areas. I point to the breakdown of the family. So we've had all these years of these social programs, which you say were beneficial, I'm assuming is what you're saying. I say they certainly haven't been. All I know is they've certainly failed. We've tried liberalism. Why not try conservatism? Why not try something else as an answer to these societal ills?
Okay, so Jeff,
Hang on. We got to roll to a break. We'll come back with more. Steve Sabatowski with us, Jeff Crouere here, 504-556-9696. It's ringside right here on WGSO.
Catch the Three Tailgaters Show with Ken Trahan, Ed Daniels, and Rick Gailey Saturday mornings from 10 to noon on WGSO 990 AM, New Orleans.
March the Israelis to the door of the oven.
Yes, I would. And let me tell you why. Because I have been to Auschwitz 3 times. I have stood at that very place.
Mike Huckabee on the Today Show on NBC with Matt Lauer sticking to his statement referencing the Holocaust, President Obama's deal with Iran, and its potential impact on the state of Israel.
I've been to Israel dozens of times. My first trip there was 42 years ago. The one thing I am absolutely assured of is that for 6,000 years, Jews have been hunted down. And the last time the world did not take seriously threats against the Jewish people, just before World War II, this ended up in the murder of 6 million Jews.
Now, as far as his original remark, Huckabee telling Breitbart News over the weekend,
he's so naive, he would trust the Iranians and he would take the Israelis and basically march them to the door of the oven.
This is news on the Blaze Radio Network.
Everyone is making the switch to the Blaze to make it their source for the truth. Why not make it your source for the truth? Make theblaze.com your homepage for news that the other outlets won't even touch. Subscribe to The Blaze TV at theblaze.com/TV or on Dish Network and get access to original programming like For the Record, the show that exposes what's really going on that the government doesn't want you to know. And Real News, the daily conversation on the topics of the day that matter most. Check out the Blaze Radio Network at theblaze.com/radio with the
All right, busy 10 o'clock hour coming your way. We've got some Blue Bayou tickets to give away, and also tickets to Dixie Landing Theme Park. Also got a great guest joining us a little bit later on. Right now, though, we've got another segment with Steve Sabodowski, publisher of Bayoubuzz.com. Each day in the program, we have a Ringside All-Star who checks in with us on Tuesdays. It's Steve Sabodowski, who is also joining us via Google Hangout on Bayoubuzz.com. And Steve, welcome back.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, thank you. Number one, I had an opportunity to listen again to what Huckabee said, and yeah, I definitely reaffirm what I had said earlier, and that is that that his mistake was marching to the to the ovens, marching to the ovens. That was a mistake. But I think his intent was, hey, look at what has happened to the Jewish people over history, and this deal could bring them to the same place. Again, I think the term "marching to," I think that was really his error of judgment, but I certainly would not in any way put that into the same category as some of the things I've heard from Donald Trump.
Who, by the way, Steve, is now in pretty much every poll leading nationally among Republicans. And President Obama took time away from his activities in Ethiopia, I think he was, where he made comments about Huckabee and also Trump. And Trump returned fire, calling Obama the worst president, possibly the worst president ever. And also you had Ted Cruz going to Huckabee's defense, saying Huckabee's comments were on target about Iran and about that deal, and offering to debate Obama about the Iranian deal if the president wants to debate. So I don't think he's going to be taking up Ted Cruz on that challenge anytime soon. So what do you make of the Donald staying power?
Well, I think that he's, again, what you've heard from other people, tapping into anger. And, I'm just against people who are going to really try to use, both, let me rephrase what I'm trying to say. I think that Trump and Clinton have very little credibility. Okay, in my mind, I think that what they say, I can't believe. I think that Trump uses a lot of words to get attention, and right at the time that he made his first, when he broke his, he made his statement that he was running for office. You and I got into a discussion immediately. I said at the time that I didn't think that he could be believed, and nothing he has said, as far as I'm concerned, has led me to believe that he can be believed. I think he's going to hurt the Republican Party. And I think Clinton's going to hurt the Democratic Party.
Well, so, let me just say this, and then I want to get some of these calls in at 504-556-9696. He brought all this attention to the immigration issue, and lo and behold, right after that, we see a notorious drug lord escape, obviously through a corrupt prison system down in Mexico. A deluxe tunnel was built right underneath the guy's shower, and he got out, had a motorcycle waiting for him. I mean, it was a joke. This is the most dangerous drug lord, and he basically was given a path to escape the prison. And then you had, of course, the tragedy of Kate Steinle being gunned down in San Francisco by an illegal immigrant who had supposedly been deported 5 times, convicted of 9 felonies, highlighting again all of these illegals that are committing crimes. Then you had the hearing on Capitol Hill where you had family members of those killed by illegals testifying about their crimes and praising Donald Trump for bringing attention to the issue. So I certainly don't think he's harming the Republican Party.
Sure he is.
The Republican Party, let me say this, the Republican Party is harming itself, Steve.
Okay.
The Republican Party, through the leadership of Mitch McConnell and John Boehner, has destroyed their own brand. The Republican Party is viewed negatively by Republicans. Republicans don't trust the Republican Party to do anything. What have they done? We gave them power in 2010 and 2014. They've gotten nothing accomplished. So Donald Trump comes along, points out the fact that these politicians are all talk, no action, and you're blaming Donald Trump. I'm blaming Mitch McConnell and John Boehner. They're do nothing, no good, quote, leaders.
Well, I think you have 15 candidates. I think that there are some candidates in that 16 candidates, 15 plus Trump. I think there are some candidates who are worth looking at. And I think there's some candidates on the Democratic side that are worth looking at.
I agree.
I don't think that Clinton or Trump, in my mind, I don't think. I think that both Clinton and Trump are going to hurt the Democratic and Republican parties respectfully.
All right, you've made that point. Let's get some input. 504-556-9696 to join us. Let's bring on to kick off the festivities here our friend Sid in Gentilly. What's happening, Sid? Good morning. Sid, you with us?
Hello, Jeff.
Hey, who's this? Jason?
You got Nathan.
Nathan, how are you, my friend? We got some. We got to get the call board straight. What's going on, Nathan?
Not much, man. You bring up El Chapo, man. Another point about El Chapo. He was working with the CIA. That's from Tosh Plumley, CIA whistleblower, and he was given cover by the DEA as well. So just a little insight on that. Mm-hmm. Earlier I was talking about Planned Parenthood and the destruction of the inner cities and the black family.
Right.
But that goes hand in hand because it's the same driving forces, and that is Margaret Sanger and the Rockefeller Foundation both play a hand in destroying the black inner city family, you know. And then Steve was talking about gun control. Well, the only answer to gun control is arming law-abiding citizens. And I'm not just saying that. The Detroit chief of police, who was a black chief of police, and the head of Interpol both said the same thing. That's the only way you can stop this.
Also, the black sheriff of Milwaukee, if I'm not mistaken, Nathan, he's saying it too.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I'm going to bring up a point about Donald Trump. In 2000, in his book, he supported gun control in his book. Now, I understand he didn't support, per se, gun control. He had supported an assault weapons ban. I mean, I know he has walked back from that. So, I mean, he's kind of flip-flopped on that issue.
Right.
And he also, I mean, I like Donald Trump, but he also has supported Hillary Clinton to the fullest. He donated in 2002 to her campaign, 2006, and then he donated 2007 and 2008 to her presidential campaign, and he also has given $100,000 to the Clinton Foundation. So, you know, all these people are playing together. You know, I really don't believe that he is some opposition to the establishment. I believe he's a ringer to the establishment so he can take away focus, media attention from some of these real candidates like Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Ben Carson, and then that way we automatically get Jeb Bush.
Well, that's the worst case scenario right there, getting Jeb Bush. I think that's got to be avoided at all costs. But you make a good point. He has changed his position, Nathan, on a number of issues, and the question is, will voters buy the conversion? Will they believe that he's actually really changed, or will they think it's just out of convenience, politics as usual, he's just another politician? So a lot of these politicians have changed their positions. Look at Hillary Clinton. She changed her position. She made like 45 times on the trade deal. Then she came out against it at the last minute. So that's a perfect example. Gay marriage, Obama and Hillary Clinton have changed their opinion on that. So I think both parties have politicians that flip-flop around. Steve, your thoughts?
You know, you're right. Both parties do have. And I certainly, I mean, I would not consider Trump to be an outsider. I mean, I think he is the consummate insider. So if, you know, anybody who thinks, oh, well, you know, this guy is, you know, not like them, he is them.
Well, the difference is, of course, he's never run. And this is the first time after all these years he's actually thrown his hat in the ring. He's actually released his financials. He's actually out there campaigning. So it is a new departure from him based on what he's done in the past, which is just tease us. But now he's actually jumped in. People say he's going to – some people said first he wouldn't release his financials. He did. Then they said he would bomb. He hasn't. Then they said he would get out. It's been over a month, and he's still in. So let's just see what happens. But if the Republicans treat him – let me just make this prediction, Steve. If the Republicans treat him like crap, if they continue to try to exclude him from debates when he's leading, then you're pretty much asking him to run as a third party, as an independent.
again, let me just say this since you bring that up. I certainly, if I were the Republican Party, I certainly would not exclude him from anything.
They tried. They were conspiring to do that.
I heard the rumors. Whether or not he's leading or not, I mean, if he's within the 10 people who are top in the polls, if that's the rules, then certainly he should be in there. I think that. I mean, where I have real issues with him is, like I said, his truth telling, his using hyperboles to express himself. But more than that, I think that, my God, I mean, the fact that he gave out Graham's cell phone number. I mean, there are other ways to do things. I mean, that just shows me how dangerous this guy is. I mean,
that's dangerous.
Yeah, that's
releasing a smug politician, a guy who had called him up begging for him to help him get on Fox News,
releasing a cell phone number,
begging for donations. The fact that he released his guy. Why is this guy above having a cell phone number released? He's a senator. We can't touch a senator. We've got to put him on a pedestal. The guy's just like anybody else, Steve. He's a politician. So I don't think he should be treated as any kind of with perks and privileges. He should be just like an average person.
Why don't you give the address, his home address, and let's go forward with that discussion. Let's go and give away more information about people. Look, that's beyond the bounds. Okay?
He didn't do that. He released his cell phone number, and the guy got lots of calls. He changed his cell phone number. The guy called him names, and that's how he responded. He told people the guy had been calling him. This is the number he used to call him. Hey, he got a big response out of it.
Okay.
So all these things that you think are beyond the pale.
This is like schlock radio.
Are actually supporting, Steve.
Look.
You called him a clown. You called him a clown.
I think he's a clown.
This clown is leading, Steve.
Yeah. Look.
The clown's leading.
What does that tell me? Okay, I mean, it tells me that there's a lot of people.
Maybe you're out of touch with a lot of people.
25% of the Republican Party. Am I correct? 25% of the Republican Party.
Field of 16. There's more than 25% that support that kind of anti-establishment message.
Jeff, trust me that what he's going to do is he's going to bring down the
Republican Party is down. The Republican Party is already destroyed itself. What are you talking about? Bring down the Republican Party? How can anybody trust a Republican Party that we put in power to do something that didn't do anything? So it's already destroyed. He's going to bring it down. Maybe he could save it.
Jeff, because the country actually is bigger than you. Okay, the country
I never said that
actually,
I own the country.
The country.
I never said that it was just me.
The country is actually bigger than you in the way that you think, and the 25% of the population who support Donald Trump.
There are millions of people out there who are sick and tired of what's going on, Steve, and don't like the philosophy espoused by you and the media and the liberals and the Democrats. And the rhinos, and they want to change.
And the rhinos, and the moderates, and the conservatives.
Because you know what? The conservatives have not had a chance to lead.
So the fact is that
your side has been winning all these years. And what we have disaster and misery.
Well, yeah, but you haven't told me yet, Jeff.
When are the conservatives going to have a chance?
I'm waiting for you to tell me how you would have fixed the 60s. How would you have fixed?
How would I fix the 60s?
Explain it to me.
The 60s. Let's fix today. Let's fix today. Let's fix the problem of all the things that the 60s have caused, the breakdown of the family, the economic collapse.
Me those were the problems, so you tell me, let's go back 60 years, and you tell me how you would have done it. No, you tell me how it would have done.
How about free enterprise, Steve?
Free enterprise, we all agree in free enterprise.
You know what we had back in the 60s? We had like 90%, we had 90% taxes on the top upper echelon. We had a private sector that was being, throttled by oppressive tax rates. Yeah, I think we could have unleashed free enterprise to deal with a lot of the problems. Instead of public housing, Steve, how about enterprise zones? Instead of welfare, how about making people work for getting government benefits? Instead of incentivizing the breakup of the family, how about giving incentives for families staying together? There are all kinds of different things that could have been done through a conservative point of view. Liberalism prevailed, and of course we have the disaster we have. Listen, we're going to come back with one more segment. We've got to take a brief time out. Steve Sabadowski with us. We'll get some calls in, 504-556-9696. WGSO 990 AM, WGSO.com. We'll be right back.
You face many questions and uncertainties in life. This is Ralph Leopold. Join me for Your Money, Your Life.
Tuesdays at 5 on WGSO 990 AM.
And we can talk about it.
Did you hear what actor-director Woody Allen said about achieving immortality? He said, "I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve immortality by not dying." Well, the Bible has good news and bad news for Mr. Allen and everyone who is afraid of dying. The bad news is we all die. But the good news is we can achieve immortality. Our mortality becomes immortality when we are resurrected into eternal life through faith in Christ. Actually, everyone lives forever. It's just a question of where. Living forever in the presence of God is the only way to go. And this is David Jeremiah, encouraging you to get on the road to new life. Discover God's gift of immortality on Route 66.
Route 66, driving the word home. Log on to Route66Life.com. Start your journey home today.
Hi, it's Marcel Lashover from Show Me the Money Show. I have a couple questions. Do you have a mortgage? What if you don't come home from work today, or get hurt at work, or even get a critical illness like a heart attack, stroke, or cancer? Who's going to pay your mortgage payment so your family does not have to lose their house? Call One Stop Financial Group at 504-708-1300 to get a free customized plan to protect your family today and not lose your home. 504-708-1300.
Tim McNally here. The Dine, Wine, and Spirit Show is daily, 3 to 5, discussing wines and restaurants and spirits right here at WGSO.
This is William Wallace. Join me Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. here on WGSO 990 AM for my town hall. Hear what I have to say and let your voice be heard.
It's another edition of Ringside Politics with a Punch and Jeff Crouer. We're on the air right now. The topics are hot. The host is cool. And we're waiting for you to shed some sunlight on our vast listening audience. Call Jeff Crouer now at 556-9696.
All right, we're back. Jeff Crouer here. Steve Sabadowski with us. It's Ringside WGSO 990 AM, also WGSO.com. We're also visiting on Google Hangout at Bayoubuzz.com. We've been talking about everything from guns to the Iranian deal to Donald Trump, Mike Huckabee, crime, the Great Society, conservative versus liberalism, what's going on in the Republican Party, Donald Trump, etc. So, Steve, can we take some calls?
Not yet, if you don't mind. Let me just make give a response, okay? Do you mind?
All right, I'm going to give you a chance for a very quick response, but this is a talk show, so we bring on callers, okay? So very quick, because we got to get these callers in. So go ahead.
Okay, well, number one, you said about giving guns to law-abiding citizens. My question is, how do you keep the guns away from those people who are not law-abiding? Number two, I agree with a lot of the things that you're saying in terms of the conservative solutions. My point is, and yes, there were excesses in the Great Society, but to say that all of it is a failure, that's fine. You can say that, but what would have been your solution back then? That is the point that I'm making.
Okay. All right. And I think I've addressed that, so let's get some callers in. Daniel joins us from Covington. What's going on, Daniel? Good morning.
What's going on, Jeff?
Hey, good to hear from you, my friend.
Yeah, hey, I guess the point that I wanted to bring out, like, I'm kind of pulling for Donald Trump for us veterans and all that, and my point is, I guess it's very simple. It's like the medication that the VA has assigned to me, doesn't really work. So I went out to the private sector and got the medication. We're sorry, we don't, it's not like we pay for. So it's like, when you look at the Trump policy, it's like, man, for these veterans, these guys need to get the health care they deserve. And, I mean, that's my point. It's like, I served my time, and stuff happened, and, now you're home, and where we at,
So the VA, Daniel, the VA has let you down. The VA has not been there for you.
Well, they're there, but it's on their situation, so to speak, on what medications they want to give me.
Right.
Because the exact medication that I needed, they said, well, we're sorry, we don't offer that. And when I finally got somebody on the phone to talk to, they said it's a price thing. It's just, we're not going to pay for it.
Right.
And I was, so you're telling me that I paid into this when I was in the Marine Corps. I served 2 tours in Iraq. I got injured in Iraq, came home, and now
so the medication you need, you're having to pay for on your own via the private sector, right?
I have a 70 service-connected disability rating on this injury, but I can't get that medication for it.
I got you.
So it's ridiculous.
That is outrageous, my friend. I mean, you've served our country, and our first priority, our top priority should be taking care of people like you. And you put your life on the line for our country. And the fact that you've got to go through all this for treatment is criminal, outrageous. Steve, your thoughts?
Is he talking about generic versus brand? I don't know.
I don't know the specifics, but I know that he's having a hard time getting what he needs. And it's a shame that that is what's happening. And I'm sure Daniel's not alone. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Always appreciate you. 504-556-9696. Let's bring on our friend James in Metairie. James, welcome aboard.
Well, Jeff, thank you very much, and good morning, Steve. A couple of quick items here. A recently released CNN poll, Bernie Sanders crushes billionaire Donald Trump in that poll, 58% to 38%. Couple of things, Jeff. You can almost spend an hour with the truth detector and clearing up false statements made on this show by some of your conservative listeners. Yesterday, a consistent false teacher said that the Obama trip to Africa cost $1 billion. That is a lie. Check it out on the internet. At most, it might be 100 million, maybe 50 to 100 million. And also,
you know what? And by the way, I did try to investigate that, James, and that data is very hard to come by as far as the exact cost of these trips.
I guarantee you the data that says it cost $1 billion.
No, I agree.
It's not true.
And I questioned it when it was reported, but who knows what the exact figure is?
Well, about between 50 and 100 million.
Yeah.
Understand. Now, somebody also said this morning, folks, that the Sanger Theater on Canal Street was named after Planned Parenthood's Margaret Sanger. That, too, is false information. And one other quick thing before I get to the shooting in Lafayette.
Yes.
Steve, you were in the media. Isn't it ironic that on the Blaze News, they blaze all this news about Donald Trump, but the founder of the Blaze News, Glenn Beck, on Glenn Beck's radio program, the name of Donald Trump has been banned, Jeff. He's banned the name Donald Trump from his radio show. So, on the Blaze Radio News,
you hear it all the time.
I know it's all over Blaze Radio News or Blaze Radio propaganda, but on Glenn Beck's daily radio show, people cannot talk about Donald Trump. He has banned the name of Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, to his own detriment. I mean, that's ridiculous to ban a guy who's leading in the polls. Go ahead.
That just goes to show you that it's not really conservative news on shows like Limbaugh and Glenn Beck. It's entertainment. Now, concerning the Lafayette shooter, Steve, I don't know if you heard the show yesterday. Jeff had on as a guest Larry Pratt from Gun Owners of America. He's famous for saying that, we need to be armed, folks, in this country in order to fight this tyrannical government. You know, that's why everybody needs to be carrying a gun. I brought up to him that in that, according to law enforcement officials, the crazed, by the way, this is a crazed Republican, anti-feminist, anti-abortion, ultra, right-wing shooter. This guy was sitting behind 2 women. He pulls out his weapon, bang, bang, shot the 2 women in front of him, probably in the head. They are dead. Now, there were 9 other people who were wounded in that horrible attack, terrorist attack. All we know is there were 2 other women who were shot. The man hated women. But the key thing is here, Steve, is that Larry Pratt agreed with me. If I said the entire theater was occupied by Medal of Honor winners and war heroes, each of whom had a concealed weapon, there is nothing any of them could have done to save the 2 dead victims. And if this guy had I think he fired 13 rounds. If he had large capacity magazines and there were other people sitting in front of them, he could have gone bang, 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 killed, a half a dozen or more people before anybody could have reacted quickly enough with a concealed weapon. If you think carrying concealed weapons into a theater or other public venues is going to stop the carnage, the killing, you are absolutely wrong, according to Larry Pratt of Gun Owners of America. The element of surprise.
But he still advocates that we get rid of gun-free zones, James.
Well, I'm telling you, the element of surprise, as Larry Pratt agreed, cannot, or the element of surprise overcomes any number of people in a theater or otherwise having weapons. It happens too quickly. People cannot react long enough. That people will die if there's a dedicated killer who wants to kill people, Jeff.
Certainly, it could have avoided some of those being injured. Maybe not the first few people that he shot, but he went on shooting for a while. Then he went back into the theater and shot up more people.
I agree that there could have been others that it might have been saved. But if there were enough people sitting in front of him or near him, bang, 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 all dead, Jeff. It's not going to stop it.
All right, James. All right, that's James in Metairie.
Jeff, there's two issues that I see. Number one is crime in the city, guns in the city. Number two is these wacko shooting. Okay, so the solutions to both of them are not necessarily the same solutions. And so my question is, how do we get rid of how do we deal with the crime? Giving guns away to law-abiding citizens, that sounds good, but does that mean that you actually give them the gun? Does that mean that those people who are not law-abiding, do they now have a right to have a gun? Especially if 80% of the guns or by personal transactions or sales or give me's, or this is a problem. And just
here are two solutions.
Guns on there is not necessarily the answer to the crime in the city problem.
Two solutions I have. One is that we seriously look at these, quote, gun-free zones. I think that's an invitation for trouble. Two is that we encourage more people to actually purchase guns, go through the training, become gun owners, become proficient with a weapon, and then they would be comfortable using that weapon, if necessary, for self-defense, maybe in a position to stop a criminal before he or she is able to harm innocent people. I think that is already going on. I encourage more and more people to do it. I am in the process of doing that right now. I feel better. The fact that I've learned some skills about how to operate a weapon, how to defend myself and my family. I know others are doing that. And I think that could be a step. That could be a positive thing. I don't think gun buyback programs work. I've seen the kind of weapons that are brought in. They're like old revolvers, grandpa's old rifle. Doesn't seem like the criminals really participate in that.
So what do we do about because the long-term fix in terms of another Great Society program or trying to bring families together, etc., that is a long-time fix. Meantime, 400 shootings, killings in New Orleans, whatever it may be, all around the country. How do we fix that?
Let's look at New Orleans. The solutions such as NOLA for Life, midnight basketball, they don't seem to be working, do they?
No, they don't. But how do we fix the problem?
Yeah.
More cops? Yeah, sure, absolutely. More cops. That's not going to fix the problem, though. You're still going to have the guns on the street.
Yeah, I think a short-term solution, I've called for it many times, I've written about it, is to bring the National Guard down here. I think we're in an emergency situation. I think it's a short-term, not a long-term solution at all, but I'm talking about short-term to really free up the very limited manpower we have in the police so they can focus on, really the hotbeds of crime, and we can have the National Guard supplement what they're doing. I know we have the state police doing that in the French Quarter, but that can't be our solution long-term either. So, long-term, we've got to look at some way of rebuilding a demoralized and depressed police department.
No question about that.
Let's get some more calls in, Steve. Let's go to Glenn, who's with us on a cell phone. Glenn, what's going on? Good morning.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing? Enjoying your program as usual.
Thank you, sir.
Two things. First, on as far as these people in heaven, I have a concealed permit. You're never going to stop the crazy. But I can tell you what you can do is you can curtail it. Because I can assure you, if I would have been sitting 3 rows back behind that guy that pulled out the gun, he wouldn't have got his 4th shot off before I would have shot him. And I know I could have done it. Okay, and that's the kind of stuff that you need to be able to do. You're not just defenseless in there, where these people can go back outside, come back in, and shoot more people. It's just unbelievable that people think that you can't. You're not going to ever stop it. Because he could have had a machete, and he could have killed 2 people before they could have even moved with him sitting right in front of him, or some type of sharp knife or whatever. You can always do it if you're crazy, and that's always going to happen. But at least you have some defense to stop some things. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, I heard Steve earlier say, what do you do with all these people? And, you got to help them. Just what do you do, Jeff? Let me tell you what you do.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all today. So.
No, I'm talking about earlier when we were talking about people on welfare and, what do you do with the people that don't have anything?
I didn't say that. We didn't even talk about that.
Work and all that stuff. And what I'm saying is...
I never talked... That was not part of our conversation.
Hey, hang on, Steve.
Go to work.
Let me make his point, and then you can respond. Okay. But let Glenn make his point. Okay, go ahead, Glenn. I'm sorry.
You get your behind out and you go to work. I can remember when I was like 8 years old, a relative came over to our house and stayed with us for a while. And my father let him stay for a little while. Then he told him, you know what, every morning you get up and you go out and you look for a job. Mm-hmm. And you know what, when you stay with family members and you do that for a while, you are going to get up and go get a job. And they didn't have handouts like they do now. I know a friend of mine, his brother got on Social Security. You could never get on Social Security like people do nowadays. He says he gets cramps in his hand. And he gets $1,100 a month. And all he does is drink all day, and he's a bum. And he's a white guy. And there's a lot of people that do that. And as long as you offer programs for people to have babies and constantly get more money, you got to understand that you're going to have to curtail it to stop it.
All right, my friend. Hey,
I enjoy your program.
I appreciate it. Thank you, my friend. That is Glenn. Real quick, Steve, because I want to try to squeeze in a quick one or two because we got to roll to another segment. Go ahead.
I totally agree with that. I mean, these people need to stop putting words in my mouth.
All right, let's go to John in Metairie. John, what's happening, my friend? Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Last caller said what I wanted to say. James always dwells on the 2 people that were shot dead immediately. How many other people may not have been shot had someone been armed and been able to return fire? Those people, I don't know their condition. Some of them might be maimed for life. So, just to say what could have been, those 2 people, right, but how many others may have been safe?
Well, certainly he would have been stopped from coming back into the theater, which is what he did, John, and shoot more people. I mean, so that there would have been some folks saved from the wrath of this lunatic if there would have been somebody there with a gun.
Exactly. And James said something about he hated women. Well, I don't know. The man's dead. I don't know his mind. I don't know where James found this out or whatever, but he made a couple of remarks about the individual that I know nothing about and hadn't heard. Okay?
Right.
So he's got a lot of supposition going on. So, it's the old adage, hey, they just want to say, the liberals, what they want to say to make their point, and they disregard. Like he talks about some of the people that have had marital problems and infidelity. Well, Martin Luther King was an adulterer. That's proven fact. But he never worries about things like that. You see, they disregard when it's on their side, or when they change their mind, guess what? It's okay.
All right.
When somebody else does, it's not.
Hey, John, good to hear from you, my friend. Steve, let's squeeze in one more quick one. Rick, you're the final call of this segment. In Metairie, how are you, sir? Good morning.
I'm doing all right. I'm going to jump to politics real quick. Look,
yes, sir.
Donald Trump is telling it like it is, and that's why the people of America are behind him. Now, with that being said, out of all the candidates running that are politicians, the only consistent one that has been voting and talking about the rhinos and the establishment and the ones that are bought and paid for is Ted Cruz. Out of all of them. Now, With that being said, you know, Mike Huckabee made his remark. What he said is true. Regardless of how you like the remark, what he said is true. Obama is marching them to the oven. And no matter how you want to slice and dice it or whatever, it is a bad deal. And everyone in America knows it. Now, also, I want to make a prediction. If Donald Trump continues like he is, and he doesn't step on his own toes in the national debate, and he comes out presidential instead of like he's talking now, and he comes with substance and solutions, I think that Donald Trump, out of all the other candidates, if he picks a vice president, it would be Ted Cruz. And because they're mainly on the same page.
Well, you know what? You make a point. They do have a lot of similarities in that they're both going after the GOP establishment, so that could be what happens. Who knows? That's a long way away. Steve, I'll give you the final word. We got to roll.
Donald Trump is going to hurt the Republican Party, but he should be in the form. Obviously, he's ahead of the polls, and I look forward to see how he is presidential, which is beyond me.
At least he's keeping the ratings up. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Right.
he's great entertainment.
Yeah. Steve, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll, of course, have a column for you later on today, Bayoubuzz.com. Check out our, of course, hangout on Bayou.